Today we're going to start with going over how to do blood typing and then comparing who can we donate to and then who can we receive from. Now, in class, we discussed the fact that whenever you have a vial of blood, that it's typically going to be ran through what we call a centrifuge, and it divides the blood based on density. So the centrifuge spins around. You've got a couple sections I'm going to point out. So we've got one section here. Okay, so the way it works is the thing will spin. It'll kind of fill up. It'll put the blood into different sections. It'll kind of split the blood. So you'll have that part, which is the red blood cells. So we'll just go ahead and label that red blood cells, which will be called in class erythrocytes. Okay. Then you'll have a section that I'll just do as purple in the middle. Okay. Pretty small section in the middle. This will be where you find the white blood cells and the platelets. Now, the white blood cells we're going to call leukocytes. The platelets, they're going to be called thrombocytes. So all of this is just other ways of saying the names of each of these. So red blood cells are erythrocytes. It means the same thing. This top green part, okay, we will label as plasma. Now, plasma is about 90% water, okay? So when we're looking at doing blood typing, we are specifically talking and looking at red blood cells. So when you donate blood, they can divide it out and they can give somebody platelets or they can give somebody red blood cells. We are discussing only red blood cells in this class. Okay, so the way we're going to show this is we're going to draw out a red blood cell. And we'll just draw it as that right there. Okay, so when we're looking at a red blood cell, it's got a few things we want to point out. So everybody's heard about A positive, B negative, different types of blood types. So I'm going to list those at the top. So you've got A positive and A negative. You've got B positive and B negative. You've got O positive, O negative. Okay, and then one more I'll just throw at the bottom is AB positive and AB negative. So those are your blood types. You've got A, B, O, and AB. And then you have positive and negative of both of those. So the way we're going to show this is we're going to draw out flags. So for example, if we're going to focus on blood type A positive. So when you look at a red blood cell, there are proteins on the surface. The way we're going to show it is by drawing flags. So if we put an A flag, that means it's blood type A. If you see an RH flag, okay, that means positive. So the way you show an A positive blood cell is by putting the A flag and the RH flag on the surface. And that makes it A positive. Now, if we were to put different flags, okay, let's say we wanted to do B negative. We would put a B flag, but we would not put an RH flag. Okay, so no RH. Now, if we were to do something like O negative, there would be no flags. So if you do not have an A flag and you do not have a B flag, that makes it O blood type. And then the same thing, if we don't have RH, that also makes it negative. So the way you show an O negative blood cell is by not putting anything on the surface. Now the last example would be if we had, let's say, AB positive. That would be A flag, B flag, and RH flag. If you see all three of those flags, that makes it AB positive. Okay. Now, the way this is going to work is we're going to do a couple different flags and a couple different cells here. So we're going to focus on, let's do AB negative right now. So as I said, we're going to do A flag and a B flag, and there is no RH flag, which is how we know that it's negative. Now over here on the right side of the screen, okay, we're going to do a different blood cell. We're going to do it as, we'll do O positive. So over here we've got O positive, which means the only flag on the surface is the RH. Because if you don't have an A and you don't have a B, that makes it O blood type. Now, another factor that we have to consider is the antibodies, okay? So the flags are called antigens. That's what we call the proteins that are on the surface of the red blood cell, antigens. So you can just remember antigens and flags are the same thing, okay? Now, the other factor that we have to consider is the antibodies. Now, everybody has antibodies in their body that are responsible for kicking out whatever is not supposed to be coming into the system. So in this case, the choices for antibodies are anti-A, anti-B, and anti-RH. And you'll notice that the only choices for antibodies are A, B, and RH. That's the same thing as the antigens. The only flags we can put on a cell is A, B, and RH. Okay, so just remember there is no O flag. That the absence of A and B is what makes O. Okay, so now we have to determine what antibodies are in AB positive blood. So the way I'm going to show this is I'm going to split the screen here, and I'm going to draw the antibodies for each one. So we've got antibodies for AB negative. The only one is going to be anti-RH. So you'll notice you have an A flag there, a B flag there. The only other option is RH, and there's not a flag for RH on AB negative blood, which means it's one of the antibodies. Now, the other side on O positive, down here at the bottom, is we have anti-A and anti-B. Because you have antibodies for the flags that are not present. So on O positive blood, you have an RH flag. The other flags, A and B, are not there, so we have to list those as antibodies. So we do anti-A and anti-B. Now, what does all that mean? So we're going to now discuss donation or donating to and receiving from. So first example, okay? So number one, we're going to ask the question, can we donate AB negative blood to O positive? So donate to them. So what we have to do now is we have to say, okay, what flags are on the surface over here? And then what antibodies are here? Because if there is an antibody that is going to kick out either of the flags on the cell trying to get in, it cannot work. So for example, there's anti-A here, which means that this A here will be kicked out. So therefore, we cannot donate blood from AB negative to O positive. Now, let's do a different example. Okay, so let's say we do the other way. Okay, so this would be example number 2. Can we go from O positive back this way? So the way we're going to word that is, can AB negative receive blood from O positive? Okay, can AB negative receive blood from O positive? So once again, what we're going to do is we're going to compare the antigens on the surface of the cell that's trying to go in to the other side, and we're going to compare it to the antibodies here. So I'm going to say that one more time. You've got antigens compared to antibodies. So now you will notice that the Rh antibody right here is going to kick out the Rh flag. So the answer is no. You cannot receive blood from O positive if you are an AB negative blood type. So just to quickly recap, for donate to, so if we're using A negative donating to O negative, we're always going to compare antigens to antibodies, always. So in this example, if we're talking about donating from A negative to O negative, we're going to look at the antibodies for A negative. We're going to look at the antigens. I said the wrong way. Antigens. We're going to look at the antigens for A negative, and we're going to see, is there any antibodies for O negative that would kick that out? Always look from antigens to antibodies, whether we're doing donate to or we're doing receive from. Either way, we compare antigens to antibodies. So the example that we used here, where we did comparing the way we did antibodies here versus the flags that we had on this side, you always compare flags to antibodies every single time. Now, if you have any questions about it, write the questions down. You can email them to me right now if you want to, or you can ask me when you get in class. But the same idea always goes antigens to antibodies every time. Always compare antigens to antibodies.